Hello again people, following the success of my first Deltarune Theory video, I have decided to make a follow-up video. In this video, I'll be addressing alternate answers, some joke answers, things I got wrong, and in all honesty, just make a better video. I did a little more thinking for this one. Also, I'll be compiling all the best answers I was able to find in the comment section. Now, I'm not going to be strictly doing Deltarune theories on this channel from now on, but I will be doing theories about other games in the future. For the most part, the videos you're going to be seeing on this channel are just going to be about things that interest me. Most of the videos you see probably are not going to be theories. For instance, right now I'm working on an overview of the Devil May Cry series that will span a handful of videos. But enough about that, let's talk about some of the things I got wrong first. Let's start out what I said about Deltarune being released altogether. This point in my video was born from trying to clear up many misconceptions about the release of Deltarune. Before the Undertale 7th anniversary, I saw a handful of Deltarune fans hoping that Chapter 3 would be released this year, like Chapter 2 was, despite Toby saying that they would not do chapter releases. In trying to clear up a misconception, I made one myself. Oof. Thankfully, I was actually informed that actually Chapters 3, 4, and 5 will be released all together, and then Chapters 6 and 7 will be released after that. I honestly had no idea that was a thing. In all honesty, it seems kinda weird, but hey, it's Toby's game. It'll come out when Toby says so. There was also a bit of misunderstanding about what I meant by the wording of Noelle saying she froze. From my perspective, I thought Toby was intentionally trying to use the term froze as a clue to reference the Snowgrave route in Chapter 2. Kris opens up the locker Noelle was hiding in, which I also believe implied that Kris knew Noelle was hiding in there the whole time. While I still believe Kris knew where Noelle was, I thought this wording was meant to imply that the ice powers that Noelle used in Chapter 2 had been used by Kris as a means to stop Noelle from interfering. My remarks about Toby knowing what they were doing was actually me being split on this idea, and in hindsight, I was reading in between the lines a little bit too much. My own theory is scrapped in a way, as someone else brought to my attention that Asgore had been working at the police station. Asgore had been working as a police chief as stated in a news article. That bit of evidence wasn't the only thing that disproved my theory about Kris and Susie being in an orphanage together, so the idea was scrapped. All that being said, I would like to say thank you for all the discussion and corrections. After all, that is the point of discussion, is it not? Throw out some ideas, and then other people bring in new ideas and more information, more precisely forming an idea which we can all get behind. Speaking of new ideas, let's go over some more amazing ideas from the Deltarune community. This first possibility that we will be talking about is not necessarily a response at all, more so what Kris did in response to Susie. Noelle mentions that she saw Kris's mouth move, but she wasn't sure if Kris said anything. If Kris had actually said nothing, then this motion in Kris's mouth could have simply been them smiling. After Susie had demanded Kris say something, it is quite possible that Kris actually remained silent and gave a brief smile, like they did at the end of Chapter 1. Seeing Kris's red eyes up close and an ear-to-ear smile after never seeing Kris do so before could have made Susie's spine tingle. Susie in the past has been citing as not letting people know she's afraid, so in an attempt to continue her facade, she probably chose to drop Kris and leave the room with her head down, so no one would know she was scared. A slightly more unorthodox response, perhaps Kris simply said, "You're pretty." Let me just make this clear. I do not ship anyone ever. If you do, that's cool. Just don't make it weird, okay? I wouldn't be doing a good job if I just ignored the potential answers because they were made by someone who was biased towards Kris and Susie having feelings for each other. I will entertain this idea like any other. I just want everyone to know that it's not for the reasons you might think. Kris the character, or at least what we can discern from their character, is a prankster in a way. They've been known to hide under Noelle's bed to scare her. They've been known to put ketchup on their arm and say it was blood. Kris has also been known to put bath bombs in the toilet. It can be inferred that Kris is a troublemaker, and that they think that fake gory stuff is funny. They have also been referenced to study the occult. Susie's attitude and her general demeanor seem to be interesting to Kris. Kris and their intrigue in Susie would absolutely support this answer, but I would draw your attention to the first time Susie received a compliment. Lancer remarks that he wants to be just as scary as Susie, and Susie is flattered by this. So much so that Susie joins up with Lancer and forms the Dark Fun Gang. If Susie was complimented in this way by Kris, I think she would have reacted in a similar way. She would have been taken aback by it, dropped her guard, and she would have responded. "What? Pfft, you think I'm pretty? Well, that's stupid." Susie, when complimented by Lancer in Chapter 1, soaks up the positive reinforcement like a sponge. She doesn't leave the room in embarrassment. Now to be fair, yes, Lancer isn't flirting with Susie. Lancer is complimenting Susie on how scary she is. Maybe this sort of compliment would make Susie so embarrassed they would leave the room. Noelle is watching is an interesting candidate. The realization that Noelle, the nice girl who gave Susie her pencil, is watching her be mean to Kris, making Susie panic and leave is an interesting idea, but actually doesn't fall in line with other events. If you remember Susie and Noelle's conversation in Chapter 2, when talking to Noelle, Susie asks if Noelle knows why Susie never picked on her. It would seem Susie's behavior is well known throughout the school, and if during this intense moment, if Susie knew that Noelle was watching them, Susie would simply turn to the door and say, "What do you want?" Noelle is aware of how Susie treats people already, so it would seem that this answer is not the one. Now we get to the one that a lot of you said, and was honestly the most heartbreaking one. You're crying is a fantastic choice, and it has very quickly become the most convincing. It fits with almost every aspect of that scene. Susie is trying to intimidate Kris. This fails, so she attempts to throw an apple at them. With Kris's gamer reflexes, they deflect the apple, catching it, making Susie even more upset. Susie is known to bully everyone, but Noelle mentions that she really hates Kris. The reason for this most likely is because Kris's stoic demeanor. Susie bullies because she wants people to be afraid. Kris is not afraid of Susie, however. This is something she clearly wants as she continuously tries to get a reaction out of Kris. So, in her rage, she thinks of something that she regards as one of the worst things that somebody can say to someone: a projection. One day your mom's gonna get sick of you, you little freak, and as soon as that happens, and she'll finally realize how happy she was without you. In her rage, she begins to cry. She snapped out of her rage when Kris breaks their silence. Kris finally breaks their silence and talks to Susie, not to snap back with an insult, not to show fear, not to give Susie the satisfaction of knowing what she said hurt Kris, but instead, their words had Susie's well-being in mind. After everything Susie said, Kris is concerned for Susie's feelings. This turn of events makes Susie become racked with guilt, and she leaves, ashamed. Well, that happened, lol. I'm sorry, but after that depressing note, I wanted to lighten the mood a bit and throw in some meme answers that I found to be hilarious.
Say something, you idiot.
That's why your mama dead. Dead as hell.
Say something, you idiot. Say something, you idiot.
Based. Based and red-pilled.
Say something, you idiot.
Baba Booey.
Those are just a few I got enjoyment out of. Anyway, I should probably say this again, just in case you skipped to the memes. I might make more videos in the future about Deltarune, but for now, I'm going to be putting all my effort into making my Devil May Cry videos. Upfront and honest, if you were hoping for a dedicated, consistent Deltarune Theory channel, you might be disappointed. This will be the last video I make about this topic, but I'll still be reading comments and responding to them, so feel free to leave some. I love the Deltarune community. It's like 30% lore discussion and 70% memes. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.